I loved her more than anything, but when I read her diary, I realized I was just a fool. So I packed my bags and left for good. I 31M, thought he knew love, never intended to read my girlfriend's private journal. That's the truth I need to say before anything else, because what followed after I did changed the entire course of my life. I am not the kind of man who snoops, who invades privacy, or who goes through someone's secrets for fun. But that afternoon, when I returned home early from work with a blinding migraine, the universe placed a test before me that I never saw coming. The apartment was quiet, wrapped in that kind of stillness that only happens when you're completely alone. My girlfriend worked late every Tuesday, usually not home before 9. I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door, kicked off my shoes, and headed straight for the kitchen to grab water and aspirin. My head was pounding so hard it felt like my skull might split. And then, on my way back to the couch, I saw it. Her journal. A small leather-bound book she wrote in every night without fail. She always closed it when I entered the room, smiling softly as she slipped it into her nightstand drawer. I never questioned it. Everyone deserves privacy, and I trusted her. But that day, it was lying open on the coffee table, pages spread like an invitation I had never asked for. And there, printed in her handwriting, was my name. For a full minute, I just stood there, frozen. My brain screamed for me to look away. I should have walked into the bedroom, laid down, and let the migraine medicine do its job. But curiosity has a cruel way of whispering when you're vulnerable. Against every moral fiber I had, I sat down, took a deep breath, and read the page that was facing up. The entry was dated 3 days ago. She wrote about how exhausting it was keeping up the charade. How much longer she could maintain the performance before I figured things out. She spoke of another man, just him, never a name, and how alive she felt around him. She said our apartment felt like a cage, and that I felt like an obligation she couldn't escape. My hands started trembling. I flipped backward, page by page, heart thudding harder with each line I read. 6 months. For 6 entire months, she had been documenting a double life in excruciating detail. Dates, hotels, lies, everything. She even compared our intimate moments, giving them ratings like product reviews. I scored consistently lower. She called me stable, reliable, good for her future, but lacking spark. He, on the other hand, made her feel wild, free, and alive. When I reached the entry about my recent promotion, my stomach turned. She'd written that it was perfect because it meant she could convince me to move to a bigger apartment, something she could later claim in the split. I realized I wasn't a partner to her. I was a safety net. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera, and started taking photos. Every page, every word. My hands shook so badly that some pictures were blurry, but I made sure the most damning ones were clear, the ones where she mocked me, where she calculated how long to keep me around before she'd saved enough to leave comfortably. Then I reached the entry that broke me. It was from 2 weeks ago. She'd written about me mentioning a ring, about the proposal I'd been planning for months. She laughed about it, actually wrote LOL in the margin, and said she'd have to play it perfectly to get me to propose before her lease on this life ran out. She wanted the engagement photos for social media clout, for validation, then planned to back out before the wedding. Something in me snapped. I spent 20 minutes taking photos until my phone's memory nearly filled. Then I set the diary exactly as I'd found it. Same angle, same open page. My migraine was gone, replaced by something cold and steady. I walked into our bedroom, pulled my suitcase out, and started packing. I moved methodically without emotion. Clothes, laptop, documents, the watch my grandfather left me. Only what was mine. I took nothing we bought together. I cleared out my drawers, my closet, my desk. I was erasing myself from that space. I called my best friend. Told him I needed a place to stay for a while. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Come over." Within an hour, I had packed my books, my guitar, my few framed photos that didn't include her. I made 3 trips to my car, working quietly like someone disarming a bomb. Before leaving, I did 2 final things. First, I transferred half of our shared savings, my fair share, to my own account. Second, I emailed our landlord to remove my name from the lease, effective immediately. I attached the proper documents and released myself from any future obligation. I'd paid through the end of the month, so she'd be on her own after that. I left my key on the kitchen counter. Didn't leave a note. Didn't need to. It was 7:30 p.m. When I drove away. She'd be home in 90 minutes. Walking into a silent apartment that would tell her everything she needed to know. At my friend's place, I unloaded my bags, collapsed onto the spare bed, and finally exhaled. When I showed him the photos, I watched his expression shift from confusion to shock to anger. He asked what I planned to do. I told him, disappear. No confrontation. No explanation. No chance for her to twist the story. Just gone. That night, I turned off my phone and slept poorly, haunted by her handwriting, her words, the cruel honesty of a diary meant for no one's eyes but her own. 3 days later, I finally turned my phone back on. 147 messages, 63 missed calls, 17 voicemails. The progression was almost scientific in its pattern. First, confusion. She asked where I was, if I was okay, if something had happened. Then, panic, calls in all caps, pleading for me to respond. By the next morning, anger took over. She called me immature, cruel, and childish, claimed I owed her a conversation. She accused me of abandoning her after 4 years, without respect or explanation. The irony was almost comical. By the third day, her tone shifted to desperation. She begged me to come home, said we could fix whatever went wrong, said she loved me. But the thing about reading someone's private truth is that you can't unknow it. Her words now felt like empty theater. While she spiraled, I spent those days rebuilding my life. I opened a new bank account, redirected my paycheck, changed every password, and called my credit card company to remove her as an authorized user. I even consulted a lawyer to ensure she had no legal claim to anything I owned. She didn't. On the 4th day, I got a call from an unknown number. The police. She'd filed a welfare check, claiming her boyfriend had gone missing and might be in danger. I calmly explained that I was fine, had left by choice, and was not in crisis. The officer asked if I wanted to report harassment. I said, not yet. That's when I realized she'd do anything to force a confrontation. So, I sent one final message, a formal, cold, legal notice. I informed her that the relationship was over, that I requested no further contact by any means, that I possessed documentation explaining my decision, that continued harassment would result in legal action. I sent it by email, not text, and then blocked her everywhere. The next morning, my friend got a call from our old building's security. She'd shown up, screaming my name in the hallway outside the apartment. Security escorted her out. Later, my landlord called, concerned. I calmly told him I was no longer a tenant. The matter was between him and her. 3 weeks later, after my lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, the messages finally stopped. My mother told me she'd even driven 40 minutes to my parents' house, pleading that there'd been a misunderstanding. My mom politely told her to leave. When she refused, my dad said he'd call the police. She left. Soon after, she started posting on social media about cruel men and heartbreak. Some mutual friends reached out. I didn't send the diary photos, that felt like sinking to her level, but I explained the truth simply. I discovered her betrayal and left quietly. Her public drama was just damage control. Work became my refuge. I buried myself in projects, stayed late, rebuilt my routine. My manager noticed the change and asked if everything was okay. I told him, it's just been a rough breakup. I started therapy. My therapist helped me see that I'd been in love with a performance. A carefully crafted persona built to extract stability from me while she lived another life elsewhere. The anger faded into something colder, acceptance. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Some people are experts at living lies. 2 months passed, and my life slowly transformed. I found a new apartment, small, peaceful, entirely mine. No ghosts, no shared furniture, no memories that belonged to someone else. I cooked my first meal there with music playing too loud and windows open wide. For the first time in years, I felt free. I reconnected with friends, joined a weekly basketball game, said yes to social invitations I once declined because she'd be waiting at home. The more distance I gained, the clearer everything became. The missed red flags, the lies, the nights she'd disappear for work emergencies. She'd been building a separate life and I'd been the backup plan. When my therapist asked what I'd learned, I told her that silence can be stronger than confrontation. That leaving isn't weakness. That stability isn't boring. It's beautiful when shared with the right person. A mutual friend recently told me she'd moved back in with her parents, unable to afford the apartment or keep up the act. She still tells everyone I abandoned her, but most people have stopped believing it. I felt nothing hearing it. Not joy, not anger, just peace. I haven't looked at the photos since that night. They're saved in 3 different places, just in case. Maybe someday I'll delete them when I'm fully ready to let go. My mom asked if I ever wanted closure. I told her I already got it, straight from the diary pages. That was her unfiltered truth. I didn't need her lies to my face. Last night, as I cooked dinner in my new kitchen, music filling the room, I realized I was happy, truly happy, not just surviving, free. And that's when I understood something powerful. Sometimes the most impactful thing you can say is nothing at all. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is to simply leave and mean it. I meant it, and I'm better for it. If you enjoy stories like this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the hype button. Your support keeps these stories alive.